so basically, like, in my opinion, they're actually looking for answers that are basically like their worst nightmare, or answers that are upsetting because they want to demonize me. You know what I mean? Like, if I want assisted dying, and everybody's against assisted dying because they don't want like easy accessibility for basically their loved ones to basically potentially just like show up and die one day, like on their own schedule, then like, without warning, because I support assisted suicide for no reason, basically. So like, and I would have taken my life like in my teenage years easily if that was sort of, if it was actually available, probably. Because it isn't, I didn't, and I kind of was like, oh well, you know what, like, I'll give it an honest shot, like, I was like, and then I was like, wait a second, like, giving it an honest shot is actually not what it's about, because the lies are so fucking strong. And I'm like, if the lies are this strong, right, then there's literally nothing I can do other than believe them, right? And then if I don't believe them, I gotta be honest about it. And then if I'm honest about not believing their lies, then it just gets a target pointed on my back, right? Or then I'm just like, literally, like, if I speak my mind, I'm like, yeah, like, this situation seems like bullshit. They just say like, well, suck it up and go away then, you know what I mean? Suck it up or go away then, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't want to suck it up, like, I think this is really bad that like we're being kept here, like, why? It's like, you shouldn't be forced to stay if you don't want to stay, right? If you're at a party, like, and you want to leave, you can generally leave, like, there's like some variables or whatever, there might be a delay in you being allowed to leave. So like, I'm hoping that's what this is. Literally, like, I'm hoping that this is all just basically like some fucked up thing where it's just like, yeah, it's actually, we're all at a party or whatever, and like there was some kind of mix up at the party basically, and everybody thought I was like some kind of asshole, or like I had to be removed or whatever. And like, you know what, like, I'm happy, I don't even care at this point. Like, you can make me out to be an asshole, but like, because you know what, the people who are making me out to be an asshole actually know how good I am, and we're probably like, oh well, you know what, and they're using me as a tool to basically scare their flock or something. And I'm like, you know what, I'm like, call it for what it is, like, because you know what, the flock isn't going to get a fair representation as to what I am, right? I've had really good conversations with a whole bunch of fucking people, like, just on the street, just like everywhere, right? Where I just like, I made sure I did a good enough job, even like an outstanding job in my opinion, of just like raising them up and not actually like, like putting them down. Like, I don't want to put anybody down. I'm like so fucking annoyed. Like, I do not want to put anybody down. They're basically like asking me to fucking put people down so that they have an excuse to basically like demonize me. And I'm like, okay, like, you call it for what it is. Like, you want me to be a fucking demon? It's just like, I'll be a fucking demon. But the thing is, like, it's not sustainable if you don't take me out of context. And if I'm going to set the intention right now that if you take me out of context in any way, shape, or form, which you will be, right? I'm taking myself out of context by just like providing basically like an influence, right? So like, if I have like an Instagram and I have like a YouTube and I have like a Facebook, like, I'm already out of context, because I just said I've had amazing conversations with nurses, doctors, people on the street, friends, family, that are totally unaccounted for and monopolized. So like, realistically, I'm pretty sure that everything I say is actually not all that, like, not actually new. Nothing actually that I've said is pretty much new, and it's all been like kind of just in my opinion, like in my head for a very long time, it's just been like super scrambled. And then like literally I'm sitting here waiting for my video to load, and I had like a bunch of thoughts that came to my head. And I was like, oh, this would be useful to record. And then and then I couldn't because my phone was basically loading a video and charging at the same time. And I was like, I couldn't pick up my phone to record what I was thinking, you know? So basically, like, what ends up happening, I'm pretty sure, is that, like, when you're losing interest, like, let's say you're losing interest in whatever, just, like, existing. And then in an attempt, like, reality, I think, does something to, like, perk you up a bit and excite you. So, like, literally, like, there could be no justification for you personally, like, being, like, essentially excited about where you are in your position, right? But then something basically goes like, well, we want them to seem excited right now, right? So, like, well, we don't actually want to fake excitement or enjoyment of a situation, right? So we'll like basically like what makes this person excited, right? And then they'll just introduce it into my brain. It's got nothing to do with what's going on around me at all times. It's basically just like I'll get fucking excited, and it's like, yeah, I'll be like, okay, this is and then someone around me or whatever will be like, oh, well, this is not like, you know, you're excited because, like, you know, something happened, because something externally happened. And it's like, no, you know. And I've had that verified like so many times. Like back in 2018, I began to question like where everything comes from with regards to thought, right? And I was like, I don't necessarily think I need to actually accept responsibility for my feelings, right? And then that was like super evident, right? And basically like, so basically I was like, yeah, I established something with people. I was like, are you being, I was like, do you want to tell the truth, right? And someone was like, yes, right? And I was like, I'm having this feeling right now, right? And they're like, okay. I was like, does it have anything to do with you? Can you like relate to it at all, right? And they're like, no. And I'm like, thank you, because like you're the only other person in the room right now. So like, I thought this feeling was related to you. And they're like, nope. And I was like, okay, so because you said that you believe in honesty, right, I'm going to believe you for your word, right? Because I have no choice, right? And then I had a feeling, I don't know where it came from, and I was wondering if I think what was happening was I was supposed to assume that the feeling was related to the person in the room with me, right? So I think they actually, something preys off of our assumptions, right? And our programming. So it's basically like, yeah, like whatever, you could be super happy, you could be super angry or sad, and think that it's from someone else in the room, right? And it's actually not. It's basically like an external thought that just enters, right? And then you're like looking for where it came from, and you're like, it came from over there, it came from over here, it came from over there. But realistically, it came from over here. But you have no idea because your feelings in your head are all like, it just gets like fucking scrambled. That miming action works great. So it's basically, it looks like this. Like at all times, this is what's going on. It's like a secret, basically, like, then you're like, huh. You know, and then you're going like, okay, and then it came over here. Somewhere over here. So you don't actually know where it came from. And then it just came from, like, you didn't see it. You basically didn't see it go like, and then you're like, who did that? It was you. You know, it's basically like, and then they're going like, hi. You know, it's that thing all over again. And the other thing, I just made a fucking video like like with basically like my hand going like this, and then somebody is basically gonna CGI their own agenda into it. CGI their own agenda into it, right? And if I'm the one being vulnerable, so I'm the one taking a position first, they'll be like, oh well, he took a position first, so like all I have to do is like, or all we can do is basically just like react after he takes a position. The problem is like I'm being forced into taking positions. So like if you're basically like using or manipulating any of my content that I put out, right? Because I'm forced to take a position and you're not, like you're a little like you guys are fucking assholes, and realistically that's happening to me all the time. Like I get put in that position, and then like literally all I'm talking to, like when I communicate with some people, it's basically information that I created, right? But then was manipulated by basically like this force here in the background where you like, and then I'm like, okay, so you don't want to take me for my word right now, right? That there's basically like CGI'd shit all around me at all times, basically manipulating my data for their own agenda, right? They're taking my data and my information for their own agenda. And that's just common knowledge at this point. If you have a phone, that's just common knowledge. So like if you don't think your phone is tracking you wherever you go, like how long you spend at certain locations, like what you say, what you do, like, you know what I mean, and not actually pay you, then like, I was like, I don't know. So it's like, why do we have it? You know what I mean? Why do we have our phones if it's doing that? And it's like, well, because the system's engineered so that we're dependent on it, right? We don't actually have a choice. We're dependent on basically the thing, like we're so ingrained into the system that we're a part of the system. Because we're a part of the system, we're completely dependent on the system. So it's like, yeah, it's like a really screwball situation. It's just like fucking